Lauren Chen drew national attention and headlines after the FBI executed a search warrant at her home. That's another thing that I have in common.
30 armed agents. You would think that this was like a human trafficking or drug ring that we were operating.
How much money did these Russian investors give to you guys?
I think it was about 10 million to cover all of our shows, production, travel.
10 million is a lot of money. The current Department of Justice hasn't done this to any Epstein pedophiles?
They basically did everything they could to name and shame us. And meanwhile, they're redacting emails that talk about, it seems to be alleging torture, alleging rape, alleging cannibalism. Why do these people get protection when I was like strung out over a YouTube channel?
I don't have good feelings about this Lauren Chen. And I was right.
Welcome back to The Price is My Life. This show is brought to you by American Independence Gold and Impact Health Sharing. And today we have guest Lauren Chen. Now what's interesting about Lauren Chen is we both shared the same criminal defense lawyer in the Southern District of New York. We'll get to that. Lauren Chen is a conservative political commentator, podcast host, digital media personality, known for her critiques of progressive politics, mainstream media narratives, and government overreach. She built a following on YouTube and her podcast, Pseudo-Intellectual. In 2024, she drew national attention and headlines after the FBI executed a search warrant at her home. That's another thing that I have in common with Lauren. I was also raided by the FBI, and I'm also a journalist. This was part of a federal investigation reportedly tied to foreign influence involving media operations and Russia. Electronics were seized during the raid, which sparked political debate over federal power, censorship, and the scrutiny of independent media figures. So, hello, Lauren.
Hi.
Great to be with you.
Thank you for having me. That's quite the intro.
Both raided by the FBI.
Yeah.
Under different, mine was over the president's daughter's diary, yours over, what was it over?
So, it's complicated for me to try to answer that because when the FBI was raiding us, they basically said there's a financial investigation into some people you work with. And I was like, okay. It wasn't until after they left, I heard the Merrick Garland press release essentially accusing us of trying to subvert the presidential election and being paid propagandists. So I guess what that was all about depends on who you ask. I think it's pretty safe to say that it was politicized regardless, though.
So you believe it to be a politicized prosecution?
Very much so, and you mentioned we have the same lawyer, lovely, expensive fellow. According to him, usually these indictments around
Jeff Lichtman.
Yeah,
Jeff Lichtman.
I don't know if he wants to be associated
No,
with being my lawyer.
I talked to him before this, and he said it's fine to name him as we were both. He's both. Lichtman was not as expensive as many other lawyers I've worked with.
There's a very high ceiling for lawyers.
Yeah.
I suppose there are theoretically more expensive lawyers than him.
Yes.
But
yes. But so SDNY indictment on Russian funding influence in the FBI raid, just to refresh our audience. If we could put up 101 GFX on the screen there. Here we on the screen, if we can put it for the audience, there's the Southern District of New York, United States of America.
My good buddies.
What's that?
My good buddies.
Your good buddies.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of dealings with SDNY. Did you see the Matt Tierman video we've dropped?
Yes, I did see that.
He said he went to the SDNY. He wasn't specifically clear about what he ratted on. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was about the diary, but that's another story. So this is USA versus two Russians.
Yeah, not me.
Who are these two Russians?
So these are people who worked in conjunction with our company. They were doing social media stuff. There's been a lot of misreporting on this case. Mm-hmm. I've heard online that I've been indicted. I had charges. They were dropped.
That's what people might assume, that you were indicted.
Yeah, but I was not indicted.
They were indicted.
Yeah, I've never been indicted, never had charges against me. And to be clear, our investigation is now closed. I also want to mention that it wasn't the case that, Trump came in and now he's trying to make everything go away because our content was favorable to conservatives. No, this was basically all finished before he even came to office. I also want to make that clear.
So they raided you because you had information that could help them in their case against these two Russians?
I would also say no to that. I don't think there's been anything new about the case that wasn't already in the indictment. And what is in there, a lot of it is very misleading. There's some things that are outright false in there. But, essentially, they had been listening to us for, I would say, years.
Listening to you?
Yeah.
The Southern District of New York, the FBI.
Oh, I mean, yeah, the FBI.
And they got secret warrants against you
Yes, that's right.
through Google and Apple and all these different companies?
Yes. And it's
Wow.
funny, a few months before this happened, I got a strange login notification from Google that someone was accessing my account from Maryland. And I guess my message to people is that if that ever happens to you, don't just ignore it. It might be the FBI.
Might be the FBI.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, basically, why I mentioned my lawyer is that according to him, these indictments are usually 4 to 5 pages, not 30-some pages, as ours was. And I say ours, again, it's not my indictment, but as the indictment related to our company was. And, since the 2 people who are actually indicted in this were not in the country, I don't believe that they ever thought that this case would go to trial. I believe that this indictment was essentially a press release of things that they wanted to allege, knowing that they wouldn't actually ever have to prove it in court. And I mean, I'm right. It's never gone to court. And from everything I can tell, our investigation is closed for sure. I don't think they're doing anything with anything else. So it's just kind of there now.
So this is the indictment alleges that RT, Russia Today, secretly funded and helped steer this Tennessee-based company called, what was the name of the company?
Tenet.
Tenant. Who's in charge of Tenant?
Well, I was day-to-day operations with my husband. And what's really frustrating is that basically the allegation is that, there are these Russians who are controlling things. The FBI, like I mentioned, had access to all of our internal communications. They knew exactly how our workflow worked. And our creators had 100% editorial freedom over everything that they put out. We were actually licensing their content. So, I mean, we worked with people like Tim Pool, Benny Johnson, Dave Rubin. These people had their own production workflows that we were not involved in at all. We often didn't see the content until they were the ones uploading it. Mm-hmm. So for this to be spun as somehow this is propaganda, or I've even heard after it was pretty clear, the creators came out and said we weren't told to say anything. They changed it to they were unwitting propagandists, which as a concept makes no sense. I'm sorry, that doesn't. But
unwitting propagandists.
Unwitting propagandists.
Yeah, I mean, they argue that. Did they argue in this indictment that you knew about, or this indictment against these 2 Russians, that you knew that you were spreading propaganda?
Well, so it's interesting. If there is this big propaganda operation, you would assume that there's a lot of proof of what the propaganda is, right? Especially since this was a media channel. We're putting out content every day. They should have a wealth of examples to choose from. One of the examples of propaganda was the fact that, do you remember Tucker Carlson did a trip to Russia, and there was this clip that he did where he went to a Russian grocery store, and he was impressed because I think it was cheap and people were putting the grocery carts away. So we shared that clip, and that is in the indictment.
Do we have that picture of that, producer, from the indictment?
No,
this is the
Careful,
Tucker Carlson.
you may be sharing propaganda
I might be
here.
committing a felony. Let's play the tape. This is Tucker in Russia.
Standing feature, maybe the longest standing feature of Cold War propaganda in the West, was the Soviet grocery store. No products, no choices, shoddily made things. And it wasn't actually propaganda, it was real. And you can look up the pictures on the internet if you want. So we thought it would be interesting to take a look at a contemporary, modern day, 2024 Russian grocery store 2 years into sanctions. Here we go. All right, there we go. So I guess you put in 10 rubles here, and you get it back when you put the cart
so this
back.
this is a longer clip, but Tucker is kind of taking you through the grocery store, saying this isn't so bad. And this is one of the clips
From Russia with love.
but this is something Tucker produced.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys distributed or reproduced or disseminated.
So it was going viral, and we were, we would share clips that were getting a lot of attention, as a lot of these other outlets do. This was one of them. And it's funny because as we were going to share it, one of our producers said, he's getting kind of flack for this. People are saying he's shilling. Should we still share it? And this is how I know that they were definitely trying to paint us in a certain way. We had internal discussions about it. We agreed that we would share it, but we also, when we did share it, we mentioned that some people are criticizing this as being, not telling the whole story. What do you think? So we were actually we try to include that in when we shared it, the fact that there are people who say this isn't representative of Russia, or who feel that he's maybe trying to put a better foot forward than is actually the case with these grocery stores. They didn't include that either. They were just like, nope, they just shared it. They're just trying to propagandize Americans into...
This is from the indictment. This is, I can put the screenshot on the screen. On there about February 15th, 2024, a video of well-known U.S. political commentator visiting grocery store. That's Tucker. Who's Afanasvena? What is that?
That's one of the people who's indicted. Yeah.
Posted the video in the producer Discord channel. What's the producer Discord channel?
So this is, we had an internal company Discord channel. It's basically kind of like Slack. Yeah,
okay.
but not Slack.
It's a different name.
We would have a channel where people would give pitches, where we would share different clips that were getting a lot of attention. Hey, do we want to share this? Does anyone want to cover this? That type of thing. So we were operating that way for about a year, and this is the story that they chose to highlight as proof of our...
So this is what they say in the indictment. This is the FBI, or the prosecutors in SDNY, and the SDNY is perniciously all about power, as Matt Tiermont said. I agree with him on that. They are really, it's really of a dark kind of place, the SDNY.
It is.
It's not justice-based, it's power and control. But this is what they write, quote, and this is producer 1, privately messaged founder 2. They always use these metonyms instead of your real name. You're founder 1, my assumption is?
Yes, I think so.
Founder 2 is your husband?
Yes. Who also, for the record, has never been charged with anything.
Right.
And
I was never charged. They raided my home.
Yeah, they don't really care about that. They just want to...
It's kind of wild they raid newsrooms, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So, quote, they want me to post this, that's your husband, referencing the video that the Russian had posted. But, quote, it just feels like overt shilling. They're referencing something your husband wrote in the Slack or Discord channel. Now, founder 2, that's you, replied...
founder 2 is my husband.
Pardon me. Founder 2 is your husband, replied that founder 1, that's you, thinks we should put it out there. Producer acquiesced, okay. So they're trying to use this as justification for what? What exactly is the...
That this is a covert propaganda outlet. The fact that we shared this Tucker Carlson clip that we weren't even involved in producing. It was just it was topical, it was going viral. And again, that's not even the full story. We agreed that we would share it, but also mentioned that there was some controversy over the clip. So we were trying to cover all of our bases and just kind of present it as is.
How much money did these Russian investors give to you guys?
Well, the investors that's this whole thing of who the money supposedly came from. There's stuff in the indictment that I can't verify. That if it's true, which I'm seeing as how they kind of twisted things that I know aren't true, I'm very skeptical of. I'm not taking these people's word on anything. We were working with a French team in terms of the investor side. I spoke French with them. But something else that was reported is the amount. So it was basically in the media made to seem like I personally was getting like millions of dollars, which was not true. They reported our total operating budget as money that was going to me personally, which is not accurate at all.
How much money do you know that you received from the people that sent it?
I think it was about $10 million to cover all of our shows, production, travel for any guests. $10 million is
a lot of money.
Yeah, it was. We were working with big talent, and that was the thing. Like we were in negotiations with these talents for months, and these are numbers that I didn't come up with, basically.
And what did they want in exchange for that $10 million? What's the consideration as part of the deal?
I mean, none. This was basically like an angel
donation.
Investor situation. They had absolutely no say over what.
Did they want an ownership stake in the company, or?
No. And this was basically just, and I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know how much I should be talking about people who are not me, and I don't know what their case is right now, Right. Jeffrey worked with us on what was going on with us. So these other people.
Attorney.
Yeah, sorry, the attorney. So, what all the SDNY has or doesn't have on these other people, I'm not sure.
My assumption is, I don't know this, but my assumption is the SDNY has just dropped this entire thing because Trump is the president, and that's what happens. Unfortunately, in our country, justice is downstream from who's in charge, and that's my assumption. Let's face it, healthcare is a mess. Outrageous premiums, surprise bills, denied claims, and now the rates are climbing again. Medical debt is the #1 cause of bankruptcy, even for people with insurance. That's why I switched to Impact Health Sharing. No networks, no woke nonsense, just real savings and up to 50%. You can pick your doctor, there's no surprise bills, there's 24/7 telehealth, and maternity support. Take control of your healthcare before the system decides for you. Go to impactomg.com, that's impactomg.com, or call 855-378-6777 now. Impact Health Sharing, built differently. This is James O'Keefe. You know me for exposing the truth and holding the corrupt elite accountable. But today I want to talk to you about protecting your own freedom, your retirement. Now, gold is soaring above $4,200 an ounce right now and climbing towards $5,000. That's up over 45% this year alone, with silver closing in on $60 an ounce. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and major banks are now forecasting gold between $5,000 and $6,000 within the next 6 to 12 months. And that's why I've partnered with American Independence Gold, a veteran-owned company where proceeds from every sale help support the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And right now, my followers get a free gold bar with every purchase of $10,000 or more. Go to o'keefemediagold.com, that's o'keefemediagold.com, or call 833-324-4653. That's 833-324-GOLD. This is James O'Keefe, where freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is not financial advice. Consult a professional before making investment decisions.
Pam Bondi, one of the first things she did was, because there were actual Trump associates who were charged under the guise of these FARA investigations or violations, she's, I think, basically shut down the task force that was dedicated to this, and she has released a statement saying going forward, FARA, the actual any charges are going to be related more to conventional espionage.
FARA?
Oh, right, sorry. So FARA is the Foreign Agents Registration Act. And so it basically says that if you're in America and you're acting on behalf of a foreign government in terms of like lobbying and things like that, you have to register. So Pam Bondi used to represent a Qatari firm, if I'm not mistaken, and so she had to register for FARA. Now, the fact that there are people in media who are being, I mean, like, I was never charged with this, but the fact that FARA would apply to media is something people have brought up as a First Amendment violation, because it's not very equal. You can work for the CBC or the BBC, so Canadian and British state media, and you don't have to register for FARA. But there are people who have been employed in RT previously that they did have to. So
when these people, just take us back, well, can you go to number 27 of this indictment, team, page 18? I think it's another one we have, where Founder 1 and Founder 2, that's you and your husband, admitted to each other in private communications that their investors were in truth and in fact, quote, Russians.
I mean, we were referring to the two people who were, that again is not something that they quote. Who did you know them to be?
Were they Russia RT? Is that who they presented themselves as? Or
well, they presented themselves as they were ethnically Russians. Ethnic Russians.
And they supported your mission. Your
well, no.
journalism.
So they were not the investors. They were working on the social media side. So they were working with our company.
Why do you think that they wanted to fund you?
I mean, as someone who has worked with TPUSA, with The Blaze, I didn't work with, I was never employed by Daily Wire, but I've been on their shows before. I've also been involved with PragerU. There are no shortage of people who are interested in funding conservative media. And especially in light of the amounts that we were given, that is a drop in the bucket to, what TPUSA's operating budget is, the Daily Wire, or even The Blaze.
Is Tenet a 501c3 or was it a for-profit?
I'm not the one who was doing all the paperwork, so.
Not a nonprofit. Don't know if it's a nonprofit or for-profit.
I don't think it was a nonprofit.
Because Turning Point's a 501c3 or C4, so their budget is 100 million or 150 million or very large numbers. So this indictment happens, and they're going after this FARA, which is this foreign thing, which I guess on some level it is kind of anathema to the First Amendment. I mean, in the United States,
Well, they've had, there was recently a senator who was convicted of FARA violation. He was actually lobbying on behalf of a foreign government to change laws, you know, using his connection with that government to affect foreign policy as someone who was in government. The idea that this could be used for people in media at all, I think, is very strange.
Yeah, it is a little strange. How much money did you spend on legal defense, approximately?
$150,000.
Those are rookie numbers.
Yeah, well, I never
At
went.
Project Veritas, I spent $4 or $5 million, but I'm a crazy individual.
Yeah, I mean, that's money being spent, never being charged with anything.
Yeah,
So,
if you were indicted, it probably would have cost you, I don't even know, $2 million.
Yeah, I mean, easily, and
would have destroyed your everything.
Exactly. Yeah. We're almost lucky that that's how we got off with. But I have had people say, are you going to take anyone to court over things like defamation? Because there were people who were actually just lying. I mean, you can have whatever opinions you want about me. That's protected. But if you're saying things that are outright false, like that I've been charged or that I've been proven to be a spy or anything like that, you know, that's pretty defamatory. But taking anybody to court costs money, and we're already, you know, we have our share of legal fees at the moment.
It seems like the lawyers stand to gain, generally speaking. No disrespect to Jeff, who actually was my lawyer in the FBI raid. He seems like one of the better ones. I'm not just saying that. But lawyers stand to gain financially from all the political prosecutions.
They do, but I mean, I will give it to Jeffrey. So our bank accounts were frozen and seized. And, you know, they were frozen at the start of the investigation. And then this happened in September 2024. And we didn't hear from them until, I mean, not since November or December. So, you know, for a few months, it's like we're the most important people on the planet to the SDNY and the media. And then everything just kind of goes quiet. And I asked Jeffrey, like, does this happen? Like, they're not asking you any questions anymore. He's like, no, I haven't heard from them. I was like, well, should we reach out? And he was like, I kind of don't want to. It's like, me neither. But also, like, obviously, we're in a precarious situation. We've been told we can't really, and it's good advice from a lawyer. Don't comment on ongoing proceedings and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But people in media, it's kind of hard to do that indefinitely. So we reached out in April, and they confirmed that it was closed. They would give us our electronics back. But when we inquired about the funds that were seized, we were informed that it had been forfeited, all of that money. And now when that happens, they're supposed to give you notice in writing that your funds had been forfeited. We never got any type of notice. When our lawyer brought that up.
Forfeited, your money, your personal money.
Yeah.
Or the funds for the company.
So we were actually, and this is something that obviously didn't mention, but we had money in the company, our own money that had come from places like TPUSA and the Blaze. We were investing our own money in the company as well. So we had, and we also had savings that we had brought from Canada that were in the company account. So this was money that didn't have anything to do with any type of investor. This was just our earnings that were in the company account because we were investing in our company. That money was seized, frozen. We didn't really get notice of anything that was permanent. We just assumed that it had been frozen until, you know, kind of like our electronics. But when we inquired, like, so now that it's over, we have no charges, are we going to get that back? They told us no. And again, to Jeffrey's credit, why I bring this up is that, you know, we asked, like, okay, well, what do we do? Like, not only have we not been charged with anything, but they're keeping it. They also didn't even follow proper procedure, apparently. And he basically said, yeah, you could take them to court, but, and he was very frank about this, the amount of money that they took versus how much money you would spend taking the government to court. He says, I frankly don't think it's worth it because you'd be spending that money without any guarantee that you would get your money back at all, you know.
But just, you know, going back to that amount of money, let's call it $10 million. That is, I think, you know, we were even talking about it in the room over there. That is a lot of money. I mean,
yeah.
And I ran a nonprofit, Project Veritas. It was a $24 million, and the biggest donation that we ever got on a blue moon was $1 million or $2 million at most to a tax deductible entity.
Right.
But this was for an investment into a for-profit company. So did it raise any eyebrows with you? Did you find it strange? Were you curious at all when?
Well,
people approached you?
Again, this is something that I'm kind of familiar with having worked with the Blaze and the Daily Wire. I know who their investors are and how much money they've spent into the company. We were not nearly as expensive as those companies are. The amount of backing that we had, I think, like especially to what it is now, not really comparable to what those companies are getting.
This was at the time, and I remember this story, and I know how difficult it is to go through this because I've been through it a couple times. We'll get to that, but there were some high-profile people making criticisms.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through this myself, so no hard feelings. It's just the reality. Let's play. This is Megyn Kelly talking about this when the indictment dropped. And we have an extra clip. We're going to play it.
They were offering eye-popping sums to these influencers, and they took the deal. I said, who's funding this? And he said, it's a French businessman. And Dave would have no reason to lie to me that he said that explicitly.
Pause. That Dave
Not
Rubin?
for nothing, but the
Yeah, sorry, that's Dave Rubin. And so Dave actually spoke with a person that the FBI claims doesn't exist. And that's something that's also frustrating. Like, you know, in this indictment, it's being portrayed as like this person never existed. There's actually 3 people who never existed as the same alias. We were on video calls with these people. So I can't verify whether identities were real or not, but the idea that we were, you know, not even speaking to these people, it's all like, that's just inaccurate. But yes, that's Dave Rubin.
Dave Rubin, keep playing.
Yeah.
Conversation went on, and I will tell you that I told him not to do it. And that was not necessarily because I knew anything about the funding. We didn't get into that more than him saying it was his French guy. But I don't have good feelings about this Lauren Chen. And I was right. It's very annoying. The whole thing is annoying. Because let me tell you why it's annoying. Let me play you this soundbite from Morning Joe. Look what the left is going to do with this shit. This is what they're going to do. Not because of Dave, not because of Tim, not because of Benny. Because of you, Lauren, according to this indictment. We'll hear your denial. I'm open-minded to your denial. Let's hear it. So far, she said nothing. I think we know why. She's probably working with them. Listen to how the people over at Morning Joe, and I'm sure the entire left today is already spinning this.
We have all seen it for several years. Mm-hmm. There are people who are deliberately or knowingly or unknowingly promoting Russian propaganda. Propaganda that comes straight from the Kremlin.
I mean, yeah, so this is just want your reaction to all this.
Unknowingly promoting propaganda, that does not make sense. If these are the genuinely held beliefs of our content creators, then I'm sorry, whether Putin or she or anyone else agrees with them, that doesn't make it propaganda. And we went through the indictment. You know, if there were some sort of chain of command of people feeding us lines, they would have shown it. They absolutely would have shown it.
Why is Megyn Kelly saying that? I mean, I know that hurts. I've had that said about me in different contexts, but your reaction to her?
I mean, it's funny. Megyn Kelly is someone who has been critical of the DOJ and specifically Merrick Garland. And I was at the time kind of curious as to why in different scenarios people seem to have no problem understanding that political investigations exist. But when it came to our story, suddenly we believe everything the SDNY says, even when, and she's friends with Dave, so she knows Dave Rubin, right? So she knows that he spoke with someone who clearly was not Russian. You know, he did his own, he's a big boy, he made his own decision. We had like contracts and things like that. He absolutely was never told what to say. So the fact that she's kind of parroting the leftist line on this is that, oh, this is coming from the Kremlin. Mm-hmm. What's coming from, like, there is absolutely zero editorial control that even I had over anything that went out. And that was in all of our contracts with our talent. And I can safely say, having worked with other conservative media companies, we gave absolutely more editorial freedom to our creators than anyone else, than you're going to find at The Blaze, at The Daily Wire, at PragerU. And we're proud of that. And so, I mean, as someone who really believes in creators being able to say whatever they wanted, to have so few people question the left's line
Why
about
do you
that.
think that Megyn Kelly took the position that she did? The motivation?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not, I don't follow Megyn Kelly very, very closely. For a lot of the people who came really hard against me and Tenet in general, I know that it's probably because I consider myself more dissident right. I've been critical of the establishment. I've been critical of neoconservatism. I've been critical of, a lot of the people who ended up coming out against us. And so for a lot of these people, it wasn't even necessarily like, oh, you really don't like what happened with Tenet. It's, oh, you've never liked us, and now you have a reason publicly to go against us. Again, I'm not sure if that applies to Megyn Kelly specifically.
There is a lot of, I don't know if this is true of, I like Megyn Kelly, but I do think there's a lot of like competition amongst the right in general.
Right.
Whereas the left seems more cohesive.
Well, for some of the people that came out pretty hard against us, it was funny because a few months earlier, some of them had actually been trying to work with us.
Really?
Yes. And there's at least 2 specific cases where that happened, where people were, they were all about Tenet. They wanted to talk to us. They wanted to work with us. Ashley St. Clair was one of them. Sebastian Gorka was another one of them. I think he has come out and said that he declined to work with us. That's not true.
And you're in your husband's position in Tenet was what exactly? Your title, your responsibility?
So he was president and I was CEO. So I handled all of like the contract negotiations and things like that.
Okay.
And yeah.
So you're the CEO?
Yes.
CEO of the company. So,
yes.
Okay.
And
you have a board of directors?
No.
Okay. And the ownership of the company, you 100% owned it?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
And are you able to say the total operating budget? Total, like 10 million is what percentage of the total budget of the company?
That I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Let's go back to this FBI raid. When the FBI came knocking on your door, do you guys have the video of my raid? We play this on every show. They still haven't released the probable cause.
I'm sorry, so what is this regarding?
The search warrant. Open up.
All right, so that's kind of that's actually Eric Cochran, my colleague, but same thing happened to me. What was your raid like?
So it happened around 7 a.m. and they were actually about to break down the door because I guess we didn't get to the door fast enough. I mean, it was early. It's what we woke up to.
What city, state?
Nashville. So we kind of like ran to the door. We opened it just in time for them to not break it down. And then, basically they said, we're FBI, we have a search warrant, we have our hands on, my husband says, like, we don't have any weapons, there are no weapons here. And I think you were handcuffed during your raid. They didn't do that to us. I was pregnant at the time. That would have not looked good.
You were 4 months pregnant.
That's right. So they didn't handcuff us. But then they allowed me to call family to pick up our toddler, so that she wasn't, around when all of these people with guns were tearing up our house. And they were at our place for around 4 hours, searching for everything, taking all the electronics. And I'm not really sure what they expected to find, but the fact that they, Jeffrey has said, like, they could have just subpoenaed you. I think it's pretty clear that even if everything they allege is true, which it's not, there's no one related to this case that was any type of danger. I don't think they expected to find anything like,
and
human
Merrick
trafficking
Garland,
or
the
drugs.
Attorney General was Merrick Garland.
Yes.
And he's expressly forbid forcible searches and seizures against reporters.
Right.
He might not consider you a journalist, but the law is that you're not supposed to do this. But to get a raid, to get a search warrant, you need to have an affidavit with probable cause. Have they released the probable cause in your case?
No. Oh, not that I've seen.
Mm-hmm. So we don't even know because the judge has to sign off on that, a federal magistrate judge in Tennessee, and they haven't released that in your case?
I mean, not that I've seen, but perhaps they have, but I haven't seen it. Sorry, go ahead.
You posted a video statement a few months ago when you broke your silence. Is that right? By the way, this is our probable cause. Put this on the screen. There's 3 pages. Every word is redacted. Probable cause justifying search of the subject. This is what it would look like in an affidavit when you go to the magistrate judge. They got to get the court to sign off on it, a judge to sign off on it, and we don't know what's behind those black lines in our case. But our case involved an abandoned diary. Since when does the FBI investigate abandoned diaries? Since it's the Southern District of New York. This is James O'Keefe. You know me for exposing the truth and holding the corrupt elite accountable. But today I want to talk to you about protecting your own freedom, your retirement. Now, gold is soaring above $4,200 an ounce right now and climbing towards $5,000 That's up over 45% this year alone, with silver closing in on $60 an ounce. Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and major banks are now forecasting gold between $5,000 and $6,000 within the next 6 to 12 months. And that's why I've partnered with American Independence Gold, a veteran-owned company where proceeds from every sale help support the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. And right now, my followers get a free gold bar with every purchase of $10,000 or more. Go to o'keefemediagold.com, that's o'keefemediagold.com, or call 833-324-4653. That's 833-324-GOLD. This is James O'Keefe, where freedom isn't given, it's secured. This is not financial advice. Consult a professional before making investment decisions. Let's face it, healthcare is a mess. Outrageous premiums, surprise bills, denied claims, and now the rates are climbing again. Medical debt is the #1 cause of bankruptcy, even for people with insurance. That's why I switched to Impact Health Sharing. No networks, no woke nonsense, just real savings and up to 50%. You can pick your doctor, there's no surprise bills, there's 24/7 telehealth, and maternity support. Take control of your healthcare before the system decides for you. Go to impactomg.com, that's impactomg.com, or call 855-378-6777 now. Impact Health Sharing, built differently. So you broke your silence a few months ago, is that right?
That's right. So our raid happened in September of 2024. We were silent while this whole thing was happening, not actually because, as Megyn Kelly tried to allege, we were guilty, but it's because there was an ongoing investigation.
Have you reached out to Megyn Kelly?
I don't think she would be very interested in hearing from me. She gets a bad feeling from me, so yeah. And, you know, at the time, I did have people, especially the Megyn Kelly clip, sending me that, and it's like, all right, well, my thinking was that once everything legally has kind of gone away and there are no charges against us, basically people should, I guess, update the story. You know, I was expecting at least some retractions, not necessarily apologies, but just clarifications of, by the way, you know, no charges ever. But that didn't really happen. And so we found out in April that the case, you know, our investigation was closed. Tim Pool, who was trying to, like, when they alleged that, hey, you know, this is a propaganda operation, he wanted to help them. He hired lawyers. He was like, let's get to the bottom of this. But apparently after December or November, December, I forget, they just weren't interested in even his offer to help. So it could have been all closed earlier. We just didn't reach out to them, and they weren't very forthcoming with letting us know we were off the hook. But so for several months, we were hoping that we would get more resolution. We were hoping that, okay, you gave this press release with all these allegations against us. Now that this isn't going anywhere, could you do another press release to say, I don't know, something along the lines of JK, never mind. They didn't. And, you know, we inquired about our forfeited accounts. Nothing from them. And again, like, this is money that you can see through bank statements had come from Canada, had come from TPUSA contracts, and come from the Blaze. This has nothing to do with, like, any type of investor. This is just what we were personally trying to put in the company. You know, they weren't really willing to help with that either.
Let's look at your statement when you broke your silence. This was, I guess, a tweet or a post on X a few months ago from Lauren Chen. 1 year ago today, my family was awoken by the FBI. Break my door today. I'm breaking my silence. And you posted this statement on July 4th.
Oh, no, I think we got the date wrong.
Well,
it was in September.
September 4th.
Yeah.
September 4th.
So actually a year since the raid.
1 year since the raid. I mean, 30 armed FBI agents broke down your door. That doesn't, I don't know why they do that. Even if you are guilty, even if you did what they're claiming, I'm not sure why they need 30 men with guns.
Right.
Why? I guess that's the question. Why?
This was our first FBI raid, so I guess we were kind of rookies. If it ever were to happen again, knock on wood, heaven forbid. But, like, you know, by now you know what's up with this. We had never experienced anything like this. It just seemed very aggressive, especially, you know, everything that, when they were telling us what the warrant was about, it was all like, we're investigating people that you were doing business with, like for financial stuff.
So they did talk to you verbally about the warrant?
Well, yeah, we were basically like, what's going on? And then they were like, basically this.
Did you have a conversation with the FBI agents in your house?
Not really. I wouldn't call it a conversation. We asked them what was happening. And then, we said we wanted to get a lawyer. They said that's probably a good idea. But then apparently they're not allowed to do this, but they kept trying to interrogate us after they had separated us. And one thing that I've learned from this is how much the FBI will lie to you. They will lie to you sometimes I'm still confused as to why they told me the lies that they did.
What lies did they tell you?
Well, I mean, one of the things that they said that they had questions about the two individuals who we were working with, the Russian ones, and to be clear, so the French investor that David met, that's also who we assumed was like a real person. The two individuals that are named in the indictment, that's not the same person. So the FBI agent said, we are looking for them. We have reason to believe that they're in the country. And I didn't understand why they would think that. I'm still kind of confused. The reason why I'm assuming he said that is because it doesn't really make sense to try to charge someone with FARA if they're not in America. Like, you don't actually need the American government's permission to post things on social media, especially when you're not in America. But yeah, that's one thing that I thought was very strange. Another thing is I'm pretty sure they tried to trap us into like leaving the country when we weren't supposed to. So because we weren't charged with anything, they let us keep our passports, and we asked them like, well, what's going on? They said we'd be in touch in a few weeks. And this was like leading up to Canadian Thanksgiving. At the time, we were wondering like, well, can we leave? Can we see our family?
When is Canadian Thanksgiving?
It's in October. So a month before American Thanksgiving. And they said yes. They said there's nothing that would be preventing you from doing that. And we made sure, like, so, we're not being held, nothing. And they were like, no. And then they left and said that they'd be in touch. And I gave them my mother's phone number because at the time they were taking my phone. So I was like, okay, well, I don't know. Like, if you want to get in touch sooner, I mean, my mom will know how to get to me if I don't have my phone back. I'm quite sure one agent in particular immediately leaked that to the press because as soon as they left, my mom started getting phone calls from journalists. But after that, we were confused. But once we went to AT&T to get phones so we could like
talk to
people. That's when we heard the Merrick Garland press release, and that's when we understood that we were actually being accused of trying to subvert the election through propaganda. That's also when we started to get death threats, because like our address was online, and I was getting I got one guy threatening to kill me with like a cleaver, which is like, I don't know, like the worst knife.
DMs? Were these emails?
So yes, DMs and emails. So anyway, we didn't feel comfortable staying in that place. Never mind that obviously our neighbors they had some questions. So we wanted to go stay with family. Our family is in Canada. And we were actually just going to drive there as I was like trying to find a lawyer. And then I ended up finding Jeffrey. And we had agreed to work with him. But then like that night, he calls me and he goes, "Are you guys on the way to Canada?" And I was like, yeah, but I explained to him, like, no, like we talked to them about it. They said we didn't have to say. And he's like, no, like, don't, like, they're going to think you're running. I'm on with the prosecutor right now. If you try to leave, like, they might try to arrest you. And I was like, but we spoke to the FBI about this. And he's like, no, like, don't, everyone knows that you're not supposed to. And I'm like, I don't know. I've never been under criminal investigation before. I assumed that if the FBI themselves are telling me it's okay, that it's okay. And he was like, no. So anyway, that was like a whole drama.
Mm-hmm. So what did you end up doing?
I mean, well, our lawyer said to stay, so we stayed. And
in your house?
No. We didn't stay in our house after that first night. We ended up renting somewhere else because, again, like we just did not feel safe.
This whole process of what you went through, which I have been through this, not exactly what you've been through, so I understand, but it changes you, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%.
So what was the difference between the person you are? Well, there's two different questions. The person you were right after the raid, like, right. What did you learn? Like, for example, I saw people, well, mine was different. Liberals, the ACLU was defending me, like, because I was a whole, like,
right.
weird situation. But people that maybe you thought were your friends, did they abandon you and publicly criticize you, for example?
Oh yeah, there was some of that. I mean, and like I mentioned before, there were people who I didn't think who were my friends who were very vocal in criticizing me. But I guess one thing that I learned was just how easy it is to get people to believe whatever. Like, the term unwitting propagandist, again, that doesn't even make sense. And that's what our content was being labeled as. Even in the indictment, they don't mention my work specifically because obviously we had this company, but I also create content on the side. My work wasn't even kind of wrapped up in this, but now I have people who are also alleging that my tweets, my videos are also Russian propaganda. It was pretty crazy how the story, like what the SDNY put out, that was fan fiction, and then what the media and then the people online, what they spun together, that was just a whole different level of detached and removed from reality. And so it was pretty. I've never really put much stock into the mainstream media. I've always been very critical of things that government has released, but this has really put it on a different level for me, especially knowing like there are pictures that when they served the warrant of our house that were years and years old. So they were watching us for a very long time because we had sold a car.
Why did they target you? Why did they, like, why was this happening to you? Like, why?
Well, I mean, we were starting this new company and it was getting very popular pretty quickly. We were doing well. And we were trying to, I've had people say like, you don't agree with X and X person. Why would you ever work with them? I didn't want this to be the Lauren Chen channel. We were trying to actually get independent voices that were all kind of right-leaning, but get a collection of views. And we exploded pretty quickly. And I think the SDNY themselves, they labeled our content, they described it as disruptive.
Disruptive?
Disruptive, yes.
What does that mean?
I guess disruptive. We were causing trouble because, after everything, ultimately this was about the content. And you can say that like, oh, well, this was an investigation over, people who weren't who they said they were and they were doing business in the States. Like, okay, well, you can have an investigation into that, but you can't deny that the content that we were putting out, that was the free speech of Americans and a Canadian, Lauren Southern, this was what made the story juicy. This is what the headlines were about. This was what the press release was about. You can't divorce this story from the content that we were producing, right? Because, I mean, it goes hand in hand. They didn't pitch this as like, hey, we're doing an investigation into some funding. It was, this is about propaganda. This is about trying to subvert the election. 100%. This was about our content.
Were you scared after the FBI raid? Was there fear?
Oh, 100%.
Like, describe that.
Well, for months after, anytime someone knocked at our door, there was like, is that like, are they going to search us again? Like, did that knock sound a little too federal? That's actually a joke in our household now.
The pounding of the
pounding of the door.
Now, did they break the door down?
No, we got there in time.
Did they have a battering ram?
They did. They were about to.
So when you went to the door, describe that. Like, did you just open the doorknob and then they? What happened? Did you open the door?
I opened the door.
Okay,
I was a little faster getting down.
Were you in pajamas?
Yeah, pajamas. No bra. My husband had no shirt on because he was also in his pajamas. And 30 armed agents and our neighbors looking very kind of concerned.
Your neighbors were there as well?
Oh, 100%.
Is it an apartment building? Or
no, it's a house. So it's 7 a.m. on a weekday. I think it was a Wednesday. So, everyone's home getting ready for work and there's a boatload of FBI agents. And, they have the guns, they have the vests, they have the giant van. You would think that this was like a human trafficking or drug ring that we were operating in our house, which of course was not the case.
The current Department of Justice hasn't done this to any Epstein pedophiles?
No, that same SDNY who's gone after you, gone after me. They've never to this day searched Epstein's ranch in New Mexico.
Why don't you think that is?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they don't have a vested interest in searching
But
there.
Trump is in charge. Pam Bondi's in charge.
Okay.
Republicans control the House. The Republicans control the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you may not be qualified to answer this, but it is the issue of our time. And the FBI took a battering ram to your door, took a battering ram to my door for much different reasons. why isn't this administration doing to the bad, powerful guys who did something with children what they did to you?
So I think the answer lies in the swamp. And it's funny because, I've had people say, well, now that, Trump's in charge, this is all closed. Why don't they just give you back your money? Like, why can't they just get rid of the indictment that they know is full of lies and smears that's never going to go to court? Why don't they just drop that? Especially since Pam Bondi has clarified that this is not the type of thing that they would even be interested, if it was true, which it's not, that they would be interested in charging. It's because there exists a class of bureaucrats. They're unelected, they're faceless in all of these alphabet agencies, and they're the ones who basically control the agenda. And so I know there are people who are frustrated with Trump, who are frustrated with Bondi, but I don't think that they understand the uphill battle there is trying to get the people in these agencies to cooperate. Because it was also the SDNY who for the longest time was stonewalling Bondi and not delivering the Epstein files. Like, again, the same people who had apparently the resources and the interest to listen to me and my husband for years are the ones who were refusing to hand over the Epstein files to Bondi. And, in a perfect world, they would just clean house, like literally fire everybody.
What do you think of Pam Bondi?
I think I'm someone who's been interested in the Epstein files for a long time. And, I think there's frustration at, why hasn't there been more transparency? Like your Department of Justice, she wasn't part of that at the time, but, they basically did everything they could to name and shame us. And meanwhile, they're redacting emails that talk about, it seems to be alleging torture, alleging rape, alleging cannibalism. Why do these people get protection when I was like strung out over a YouTube channel? I can only assume it's because there are internal forces that are basically either blackmailing, threatening, stonewalling any type of progress there. And that's been something that I've encountered on a much smaller scale just with our case. Again, there are people in the DOJ who have said they want to help us get our money back and correct some wrongs that were done. But what we've seen, even with Ed Martin, is that he's faced internal opposition when they are trying to right those wrongs.
There's another one, Gail Slater, the head of the antitrust division, was pushed out. I don't know exactly what happened, but I heard she's one of the good people.
Yeah.
Who knows? But there needs to be a detente in this country, because they go after the Democrats will politically prosecute and indict their opposition, and the Trump administration went after Don Lemon. I don't know if that's going to happen. Went after James Comey. That went away. But there just seems to be every 4 years we're just going after our enemy, or the enemy of the political party. Where is that headed? Where do you think that's headed?
Well,
Civil war?
They've already prosecuted the president. I don't think you get any more. What more could they do, right? They were trying
he won the election, which saved him. But if he didn't win the election,
exactly,
he'd be done for.
Literally jailing their political opponents.
So where is this headed? What is the future? Is this like civil war? It's gotten so extreme that this is just my opinion, but I'm pretty confident. I'm 90% confident that if Trump was not elected president, you would have been personally indicted.
It seems like if they wanted to, they would have done it initially. And that's essentially what Jeffrey said as well. The fact that they didn't, when they apparently had all of this evidence against us, if that was the case, why didn't they do it initially? I think, in an era where we had Owen Schroyer, who was found guilty of, what happened on January 6th. He never went in the building, but he yelled 1776. So they sentenced him to prison. Douglas Mackey also, it was kind of overturned, but they had convicted him. They've convicted pro-life protesters. I think if they had wanted to, they would have during that initial indictment, if they had wanted to. And I say that now because the investigation is closed. At the time, I didn't know what was going to happen. I was scared of being indicted. I've had people say oh, well, clearly you cut a deal with them. If I had cut a deal, I would have bargained for my money back. And, also the fact that this case isn't going anywhere. There's no more, and Jeffrey kind of joked about this, I wish you had information that you could give them, then at least you would be valuable. But unfortunately, I wasn't.
You have children at the time, or you were pregnant, and then you had a child, so I didn't have any children, no wife, so I guess that's a tough thing for you too, because you're going through this indictment.
Oh yeah,
You said
100%.
in your statement, due to high blood pressure caused by chronic stress, I was induced and delivered our daughter.
Yeah.
How many months pregnant were you when you?
Oh, it was like 37 weeks. So
37.
it was I was induced. So I didn't go into labor. They actually had to medicate me to deliver, but she wasn't early, but I had to fight.
But this is what
fighting with my OB.
everyone has some type of attachment in their life. I don't. Not yet. I'd like to, but they leverage the attachment against you.
Oh, 100.
And this goes. So how did this factor into your?
So, I mean,
Emotions
throughout it all, I did see people saying, like, you're a coward, say something, like, you're just letting them bully you. At the same time that I'm thinking, like, well, what if they do try to, and Jeffrey was very clear, like, they could charge you with anything. Like, it doesn't matter. And,
You could indict a ham sandwich.
yeah, exactly. I think he said exactly that.
Yeah.
And he's like, he knows we don't have money to spend millions of dollars on court fees. He was literally saying, don't piss them off. And this kind of ties into, I was pulled before Canadian Parliament to do a basically Canadian equivalent of a congressional hearing when this all happened. This was in November. And obviously I'm not supposed to talk about an ongoing investigation. The SDNY, they didn't really want me talking about this either because they knew that, leading up to the election, if I can say, actually, there's no propaganda, this is all BS, our content creators never fed, like that kind of chips away at their narrative. They didn't want me saying anything either. But I didn't have a cooperation agreement with them to make the Canadian pressure go away. So I basically was pulled before Canadian Parliament and had to refuse to answer any questions under advice of my Canadian and American
Why was the Canadian
lawyer.
people going after you? Like, what was their justification?
Vibes, hate, I
But
don't know.
How do they have jurisdiction? You're an American citizen.
Oh, no, I'm not an American
Oh, you're
citizen.
not?
Yeah, and I think that's also why I was a pretty easy target.
I see.
To go after. It's, like I'm foreign, I'm Canadian, but still like foreign. People in the media was just all part of it.
I see. That's one of the
And-
reasons why they chose you as a target.
Yeah.
I see.
And, also there's been reports that my work visa was revoked. That's not true. Revoking a visa is an entire legal process. My work visa expired, but because I wasn't working, because, there was an investigation, I wasn't able to renew it.
So this show is called The Price is My Life, and I think you said something. I think you said, quote, while the price may not have been, maybe this was not something you said, but something said about you. While the price may not be your life, it was your entire livelihood.
Yes.
What do you tell us more about that?
So, once this indictment dropped, and not even the indictment, that I think what really did it was the press release by Merrick Garland, as who they tried to say we were sowing division in America for a foreign adversary. And I mean, I'm not going to say that some of our content wasn't divisive, but that's just the creators' opinions. That's not anything that was fed to them. But very quickly, it seemed like there was nobody who was willing to, or very few people, because there were some people, but there was nobody who was willing to be objective about this. And so it's funny, even like Jeffrey, when we were talking about him, we wanted to work with him. He said, like, it's all right, like, don't worry, we'll crowdfund the legal fees, like, don't worry about the retainer now. And then like a few hours later, he was like, no, everyone really hates you. I'm gonna need that retainer.
Right.
And no, it was really surprising. I didn't even really expect how much people would accept the narrative that this was Russian
How
propaganda.
much was the retainer?
I think
Order
it
of
was
magnitude.
50,000.
Yeah.
And then we burnt through that really fast. And then we had to give another. And then, we also ended up having to get a Canadian lawyer as well once the Canadian stuff started.
So what would you say this all cost you? Like, what has been the price?
Oh,
that you've paid?
with everything, and that not even counting the lost contracts, but just like actually out of pocket.
Yeah.
Probably easy 300,000.
And other than money, what does it cost you?
Oh, I mean, like the first video I did, I had people commenting like, "Oh my gosh, she looks terrible." It's just like, bro, the FBI knocked down my door. Like, I don't even know how we can quantify the amount of stress that we were in, especially like the initial 6 months after the investigation. And it's not just us, like our family. We were debanked by 4 different institutions, and our family was as well. Like my mom, like her totally unrelated business, she was debanked. They Square stopped working with her.
In Canada, debanked. correct?
Yeah, we've been debanked in 2 countries, and we've had family debanked in 2 countries.
But like, what in terms of like, are you a better person as a result of this? Are you a more bitter person?
I
Are
would
you more
say
cynical? Like,
I'm a
what-
much more cynical
Cynical.
person. Oh, 100%.
Tell me more about that.
I mean, I'm not believing anything anybody says. And, before I was a pretty collaborative person. I don't think I am
You mean
anymore.
in the media space with other people?
Right,
So you
right.
don't trust these people?
I think I don't trust most people. There is, but the people that I do trust, I trust more. And they're, my actual justice warrior, Sean Fitzgerald, he's one of the few people who actually bothered to go through the indictment with a critical eye and say, hang on, this doesn't make sense. Like, if she's in on how this is a scheme, why is she bringing up that, the figures that the media talent is asking for would be really hard to recoup? If this is propaganda, why are they showing that they shared? Why is there red herring a Tucker Carlson video share? Like, he was one of the few people. Like, if she thinks this person is fake, then why is she asking you for evidence that she can bring to? He was one of the few people who actually gave us the benefit of the doubt, who looked at the facts. And
What about the people that were mentioned, like Tim Pool and Dave Rubin, all these individuals that were part of the story? Have you been in touch with them?
No, and I think, Lauren Southern, I've kind of been in touch with a little bit. She got dragged before Canadian Parliament as well, which she didn't deserve. Her content is some of the best coming out of a Canadian, and she chose her own team. She wrote her own stuff. Canadian Parliament clearly has it out for her, but the idea that she would be part of some propaganda campaign is ridiculous.
So you're a more cynical person now.
Yeah, and that's
Generally.
Saying a lot, because I don't think I was ever a non-cynical person.
Has this improved you at all in any way?
I mean, I think it would be harder for them to go after me again, just based on, how we conduct ourselves, what we know about how the FBI and the SDNY work and everything like that. I mean, I love America, but, and my family doesn't really, like, my family, they don't need to be on visas. It's just me. And I did kind of joke where it's like, if I can't come back, you guys are free to start a life in America without me. But, there was a time where it's like, okay, well, clearly there are people in the government who have it out for me. Like, do we want to come back? We were in Asia this past summer.
Well, it's unlikely they're going to do this to you again. That'd be my guess, unless you.
What time is it? I have a story about that. So we were in America until like July. Basically, we tried to submit a visa renewal. We weren't sure if it would be accepted, but they just never processed it. So whether it was someone saying, we're going to lose this, or whether they actually lost it, it's hard to say because it's the government. But we hadn't heard anything from the FBI or anybody for months and months and months, over 6 months at that point. But we left for Asia. And, when we ended up going public in September, someone from the State Department got in touch with us, and he was able to kind of re-vet us to say, like, oh yeah, he was working with people in the FBI to go over the case to make sure that there was really nothing that would legally bar me from re-entry. I don't have any criminal record. They didn't find that I was a spy or anything like that. They were thorough. I was essentially investigated almost a second time just to ensure that I wouldn't be a threat to anybody, which I appreciate. They want to make sure Americans are safe. But I had an interview at the embassy, and the State Department had flagged that, like, my case was a bit unusual for the person. So they could kind of know what to expect. But I went, and it was just a really awkward interview. They were clearly very uncomfortable. And usually with those types of interviews, you kind of know on the spot whether you were approved or denied. But at the end of it, she just kind of went, okay, well, we have some back end stuff to do, but you'll hear from us. And it was just kind of strange. And I left, and that's when I found out that in the 12 hours before my interview, someone at the FBI had put a donkey on my file.
What's a donkey?
So it's basically a flag. And so the person interviewing me was a little uncomfortable because she thought she was dealing with a terrorist.
Is there anything you would do differently? If you could go back in time.
Well, now, like I have some people from Pakistan who are helping me with like graphics and stuff, and even then I'm like, I don't know, like I should probably, but I don't think that there's as big a threat.
Are you building a new media company, or
No. I never
plan
want
to do that?
No.
What do you want to do now?
I want to try to pay back some legal fees being independent. And, you know, the feeling that we had knowing that because of this, like all of our employees, so we had tenant employees and then we had like kind of contractors. So we had a tenant team and then contractors, and, you know, our employees, they had to find different jobs. And that was really hard emotionally to come to terms with, that all of these people who we know, and it's like, man, like, you know, he's about to get married. He's just going to have it, like, you know, all of like, so it's not just our financial pressure, it's other people's. I don't want that amount of pressure ever again. And I'm sorry to get emotional, but it's like, that was like awful. And, you know, we asked the FBI if we could have enough to pay our final like pay cycle for our employees who are like Americans. And they said no. And so like we had to borrow money to try and pay as much as we could for work that they had already done. But it's like, you know, that weighs really heavily on me. That's not something that I took lightly, being responsible for these people's incomes. And so, yeah, that's something that I'm very, like, I really don't want to have to take on people because of the responsibility that comes with it.
Responsibility of being a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough in any leadership position.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, when we were starting the company, like, again, this is like getting into the weeds, but I had worked as a producer before Tenet had even formed. You know, we were making sure that we could pay these people. And so, like, we had tried to do as much due diligence as we could on that front. And then, like, when all of this happened, it was just, like, the company was going so well, things were growing. And then, you know, to be shut down, not only by the FBI, but with allegations of trying to subvert an election, it was a lot. It was a lot.
It is a lot. So are you done in media, or are you going to continue to, what are you going to do? Are you going to pay your bills back? That's a financial need.
That, yeah,
but
for
what
sure.
is your plan? Journalistically, commentary?
One of the reasons why, I mean, aside from, again, we have like a financial need because we had to borrow money for legal fees from our family.
What is it that you want to do in your life?
Well,
besides
first thing
pay
I
back
want,
debt?
Yeah, pay back debt is a big one, but also the idea that, you know, I toyed with not coming back, but the idea that would be the narrative that just existed about what Ken it was and what happened, that I was a Russian spy feeding propaganda, that was a big motivator to come back as well. And there are still people who are lying about what happened, saying, you know, that we were charged, that it was misinformation and disinformation. They never point to exactly what was the alleged misinformation. It's just a smear that they throw out. But that's something that I, you know, definitely wanted to be able to correct.
And where can people find you online? The Lauren Chen?
Yeah, so I'm on X, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm not on YouTube, but anything that I do will be on there. It took you off
YouTube for foreign meddling?
I don't even know what the YouTube terms that they claim we broke was, but I haven't been able to speak to anybody at YouTube to get clarification on it, so.
Like speaking to oblivion, a robot, AI. The Lauren Chen.
Yes.
The TheLaurenChen on X.
That's right.
Well, thank you for joining us here today. I know you gotta go. Anything else you want to leave the audience with that we didn't ask you about that's important for them to know?
Well, if you did want to help with the legal fees, givesendgo.com/Lauren Chen. Yeah, and you know, I've had people ask, like, are you going to take the government to court and all that? And frankly, the lawfare is just something that we can't do right now. It's a
you also
huge
probably can't afford
burden. Yeah, no, like literally,
Yeah.
we cannot. That's what I mean. It's a huge financial burden to try to take people to court.
I mean, it all goes back to the lawyers, even the good ones. And also, so the Give, Send, Go link we'll put there. And also, if you're watching this and you want to be an attorney and work for me, we're hiring. We're actually hiring 2 lawyers inside. But the problem is they may have to take a pay cut because $1,000 an hour or $500 an hour. I'm not going to pay that.
Yeah, especially like, I mean, I love Jeffrey, but he tells anecdotes, and it's like, that's a cute story. That cost me like $300 though. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I might pay him $250,000, which is $300,000. That's a lot of money, but that's less than they could make in the free market.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lauren, and we'll be in touch. And thank you very much for joining us here in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Thanks for having me.